Bhadram karne vishrunuyama devaha Bhadram pashye makshabhirya jatraha Sthirairangeis tushtuvagum sastanubihi Vyashema devahitan yadayuhu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, O gods, may we hear with our ears what is auspicious. O ye adorable ones, may we see with our eyes what is auspicious. May we sing praises to ye and enjoy with strong limbs and body the life allotted to us by the gods. Om, peace, peace, peace. Our discovery of God is, in a way, God's discovery of us. Our discovery of God is, in a way, God's discovery of us. Our praying to God is God praying in us. Our lives and God's life are so intertwined that loving God is God loving God's own self in us. Thomas Merton. In his book, The New Man, Thomas Merton argues that the most transformative spiritual figures are those who have undergone an inner death to the ego and have been reborn into a life fully surrendered to God. He saw this as a crucial element of authentic charisma, an emptiness of self that allows divine grace to follow through a person's life and works. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ramakrishna Monastery. That was Thomas Merton. Our topic today is charismatic spiritual personalities or leaders. What do you think? Ooh, I am excited. We're going to be talking about the different aspects of a charismatic person, the good and the bad, the one leading us to freedom and the other leading us to slavery. As if we didn't have enough with our daily experience, right? Towards the end, I would like to honor our teacher and source of inspiration as monks of this monastic organization. His name is Sri Ramakrishna, on his birthday. Celebration today. Yes, happy birthday, Sri Ramakrishna. Was he a charismatic spiritual personality, I wonder? We'll talk about that. Last Sunday, I happened to be also the speaker, and we talked about toxic spirituality. Do you remember, those who were present? We analyzed different dimensions of certain habits and behaviors that we can really carry on with our lives and turn our spiritual life into a toxic one. We talked about two main points. Number one, what we call the inside enemy or the inner enemy, where the struggle, confusion originates within ourselves, rather than from an external source expressing us as an internal conflict or personal challenge. Here, the inner enemy, we talked about the following: my wrong approach and understanding of what I am looking for in a spiritual life, my wrong approach and understanding of what I am looking for in my spiritual life. This is very important because we need to connect with something greater than us as a spirit, but we don't even know what a spirit is and what is meaningful to us. We don't really know what we are looking for at all. All we know is that it must be something that fulfills all of us. Also, in this inner enemy, we talked about the wrong interpretation of the message coming from teachers and scriptures. We also talked about the misuse of the so-called spiritual life as a spiritual bypassing, where we avoid to deal with our psychological problems or issues that we all have, and pretend that nothing is happening. We pray it out, everything is positive, I'm okay, I'm a spiritual being. Also, we identified in all of us certain traits as a spiritual narcissist. I'm not telling that we are all spiritual narcissists. Sometimes we carry on in our life certain traits that we need to become aware of. The sooner we get rid of them, the better for us. We also talked about the second point. We talked about the toxic environment or the outside enemy. And here the toxicity comes from our inner circle, family, community, church, group, social media. We talked about setting boundaries. And at last, we talked about the toxicity coming from a narcissist person, that we simply become victims or prisoners of these people. And here is where I want to start, pick up from here. We ended up talking about healthy spirituality, and we said that healthy spirituality is centered in love, but true love. What is a charismatic personality? The word charisma is often used to describe individuals who possess 1. A magnetic presence, 2. An ability to inspire others, or an exceptional quality that sets them apart. An exceptional quality that sets them apart. From political leaders to spiritual figures, from artists to business gurus, charisma has been a defining trait of some of the most influential people of history. When combined with integrity and genuine desire to serve others, charisma can be a tool for inspiration and progress. However, when used for manipulation or self-serving purposes, it can lead to deception and harm, and they can be very, very influential. The word charisma originates from the Greek word charis, meaning grace or favor. Let us narrow our scope and focus completely on spiritual personalities or leaders. In ancient Greece, it referred to a divine gift, an ability bestowed upon an individual by the gods. In India, they call it power. You have a divine power. They say, I'm just a regular human being. No, that's a power coming from God, they will say. Charisma alone does not guarantee wisdom or ethical leadership. Charismatic individuals can lead people towards both great achievement and dangerous paths. While charisma can be a force for good, it also carries inherent dangers, particularly when followers place blind faith in a leader. When combined with religious or spiritual authority, charisma can lead to manipulation, exploitation, violence, and the suppression of independent thought. Charismatic people can be both good or bad. This power can be misused. Let's talk about cults, shall we? Why not? A cult is a group or a social movement that's led by a charismatic leader who is authoritarian and who demands to be revered as God, as a God-like figure. A cult is a group or a social movement that's led by a charismatic leader who is authoritarian, that's better pronounced, and who demands to be revered as a God-like person. You are induced to believe that what the leader says is straight from the mouth of God. Follow? The leader is God's authority. Cult comes from the Latin cultus, which means to cultivate, used to describe sacrifices and offerings in monuments built to cultivate, to favor the gods. In time, it came to mean any unorthodox religion. Initially, many cults came about without the least intention of exploiting their followers, but with the need to come together for the sake of a collective self. This collective self was threatened by a political movement or social reform, and the only way to rescue its identity was to come together under the leadership of a charismatic personality who has the character and charisma needed to guide masses. There is this search in all of us for alternative forms and sources of meaning based in our values. There is a very intrinsic need for alternative sources of meaning based on our values. Attention. Remember the values we talked about last Sunday? When it comes to what triggers our spiritual search for meaning. A spiritual life refers to the values that we believe in and shape us as human beings. I think this is good, this is not good. I believe in this. This is a very, very important value to me. I will not compromise this. You can kill me. Seriously. What are those? Just to quote a few: love, compassion, truthfulness, kindness, care for each other, all ethical principles, our connections, our purpose, our concept of what is right and wrong, our need for being genuine and authentic, the value of life. Everything that makes us better, human beings. This is what matters when it comes to our identity. And it's very private to us. We don't know what the soul is, yet we have this sense of value in all of us that shapes our character and our personalities. True spirituality will make you a better human being as a whole. Cults present before us with an appeal which addresses the very core of these values. But it comes with a catch. It comes with a catch. We are susceptible to manipulation because we commune with certain values that define us, and this is exactly to what these organizations appeal to. They use manipulation to attract people. They use social psychology, influence, and control techniques to manipulate, to exploit. How our values, our ideals, our principles are used to manipulate us, are used against us. There is a very subtle edge where idealism can turn into authoritarianism under the guise of social justice. According to social scientists, this is the moment when the authority comes forward, when that manipulation becomes destructive, that the group becomes what we call a cult. It's not the belief system, but the behavior of the group that simply turns weird. It's not the belief system, but the ways in which it uses various methods of influence and control to manipulate and exploit its members. The truth is that this charismatic authority, due to the need for more control, power, and self-promotion, begins to degenerate. In its most degenerated form, there is exploitation of both sexual and financial. We only have to remember Sri Ramakrishna, who warned all of us with his Kamini Kanchana, which basically means lust and greed, and its baneful influence that retards the aspirant's spiritual growth to the point of falling from the spiritual path. Lust and greed. These, he said, are the main and most important obstacles to overcome in a spiritual life. Oops. He used to quote a very vivid illustration. Mere pandits, and pandits means a spiritual teacher, somebody who is, a scholar, are like diseased fruit that becomes hard and will not ripen or ripen at all. Such fruit has neither the freshness of green fruit nor the flavor of ripe one. Vultures soar high in the sky, but their eyes are fixed on rotten carrion, on the ground. Putrefied stuff on the ground. The book learned are reputed to be wise, but they are attached to lust and greed. Like the vultures, they are in search of a carrion. They are attached to the world of ignorance. What I mean is that these pandits are attached to the world. But if I hear that pandits are practicing discrimination and dispassion, then I fear them. I want to contemplate upon this. Once you got the intellectual understanding and knowledge, if you are serious and sincere and practice dispassion, discrimination, discernment, you don't do by spiritual bypassing. You take charge of your life. Then, he said, I fear them. Please come. Otherwise, I look upon them as mere goats and dogs. There is this documentary I highly recommend by Netflix under the series called Explained. Ever heard of it? No. Mm-hmm. There you will find cults explained. Watch it. In this documentary, social scientists say that there are 7 elements we need to be aware of because it can lead us to indoctrination into a cult. This is where we find ourselves, our mindset. How we feel at a particular moment. We are looking for something. We don't know what it is. Maybe it's values. Maybe it's just, I don't know, good people. Right? Number one, these are 7 things that 7 elements we should be aware of. They call it the crossroads, where we are going through a difficult transition and we find ourselves vulnerable. Do you all hear me in the back? Can you all hear me? Sometimes they tell me that I go up and down with my pitch and I'm not aware of it. So please tell me. The crossroads, where we are going through difficult times, it's a difficult transition and we are vulnerable. Somebody says, hello, I'm here to help you. With number 2, they call it the soft sell. It refers to strategies for subtle persuasion. You have questions about life and the universe. You are recruited once you go or attend the first meeting. Number 3, the third element, a new reality. You cover your eyes with a new reality. It all starts with a wonderful retreat somewhere where everything is perfect. And be ready for the brainwash. You are enveloped, wrapped up, as it were, into a self-sealing system. The fourth element, the dear leader. Your most important relationship is with the dear leader. You have found a group with all the answers and is led by this person, this leader, who has all the answers in this path, where everything else, except him, of course, is wrong. The fifth element, they call it the enemy. The leader creates, manufactures an external enemy as a source of fear. What would happen to you if you dare to leave this group? Don't you dare to leave this group. Something very bad might happen to you. Stop reasoning anymore. There is fear ignited in you. The sixth element, the peer pressure. The fundamental human desire to be part of a group is in all of us. We are social beings. We love to be part of it, right? You don't dare to confront the group or go against it. This is group pressure, when you don't have the guts to say, no, I disagree. And the seventh and last element we need to pay attention to is the sociopathic narcissist. All leads to the worst of this sociopathic narcissist. This person can lead you to a very dark, dark place. You only need to either read, watch documentaries, or those who are young enough remember what happened in the past. That became big news. I'm not going to say anything. You all know. All these charismatic spiritual leaders. In this documentary, it's also highlighted a different kind of thread that is silently making us fall for it. And this is for all of us. We may not be aware of it, Today, there is a different kind of threat that is driving people to search for new sources of meaning. There is so much information out there. Remember in the past, well, in my days at least, you had to go to a library, to an esoteric bookstore, and buy these strange books, fascinating books, right? We loved them. We couldn't get enough of them, right? Guess what? Everything is online. You don't have to go anywhere. You can stay home. Recline on your easy chair and be part of something. The virtual cult and the virtual charismatic figure. Woo-hoo. There is an epidemic of social isolation. It's a public threat in many countries around the world. It's a loneliness epidemic. Loneliness and desire for meaning, these two together make one acceptable to friendly people offering a community. People withdraw from society. Is it happening? There is nothing wrong. It acknowledges that it's happening to you a little bit. As fewer and fewer people identify with organized religions, which is a fact. I don't know if you noticed, but many of us feel like, no, I had enough, thank you. Fewer and fewer people identified with organized religions and communal gatherings. Virtual communities fill that void. Communities are no longer geographically bound as a result of the internet. You can be part of a community in any country in the world. Google Translate will translate for you. Or the AI now. Online new leaders attract followers through social media. You can find a community pretty much for anything these days. Social media provide answers for many people at home. These are modern days cults. You can sign up and become a member for a nominal amount on their Patreon. Social media accounts, forums, you name them. They also have a catch, an appeal, an alternative narrative for you to follow. People who are dissatisfied with the system, social justice, they promote a happier self. They all have some method they follow to control, to indoctrinate you. Some plan on our natural inclination to mimic social behaviors, projecting a happiness that is exaggerated and not real. Woo-hoo, we are happy people. Without looking within, what's going on? Using techniques of coercive persuasion involving guilt, shame, and fear. Leaving the cult. It's time to leave the cult. The cult environment discourages critical thinking. It's hard to voice doubt when everyone around you is modeling absolute faith. My God, how do you dare? He's God. The result is internal conflict called cognitive dissonance. Each promise, each compromise makes it more painful to admit you have been deceived. Each compromise makes it more painful. Who wants to suffer or to go through pain? But because you keep compromising, it's getting more and more painful. To admit you've been deceived. The cult denies to the members basic freedoms of thought, speech, and association. Don't go there. It won't be good for you. Believing in something that doesn't come at the cost of your family. You should not believe in something that should come at the cost of your family, children, and friends. I don't know why there is this external fascination. I don't know if you have. I guess I have to admit, I was curious when I was very, very younger, with cults. Maybe that fascination stems from the mystery, the mysterious things that fascinate all of us. We are hypnotized, we are sold to a leader of a group, ultimately losing complete control of our lives. I started my spiritual path many, many years ago. And let me tell you, I was pretty much on my own and very scared that I might end up in a cult. Very, very scared. I was suspending everything. I wasn't taking things for granted. I was suspending always the understanding. I don't get this. Let's keep it here. I don't understand this. Let's keep it here. But something happens when you discover their infallible leader is and was never infallible. Their guide to a moral life, or his or her life, is compromised. And you discover that. When their constructed reality, the constructed reality of a cult, of a leader, cracks. Then you wake up. You say, I'm leaving. I don't know you guys, but I'm out of here. Right? You should have never allowed anyone to make decisions for you. Always remember the key values you should identify in any spiritual guide. Freedom, his word, his message, his guidance is based, centered in freedom. We love freedom, and we feel so comfortable there. Speaking of love, love is the central message, should be the central message. Universality, to quote a few. His or her message should be supported by the scriptures and should empower you to find confidence in yourself. It should make you free, not a slave. A clear message, a clear path to follow, clear tools empowering you to customize your own practice is necessary. You go to the essence of the spiritual practice so that you have the freedom to understand, oh, this is the reason why my personality is this. I can customize this in my own way, without compromising, of course. And we are guided to find the right sources of inspiration. He or she shows you the way. It's that way, that direction. based on his or her experience. They give you the tools, and that will depend on the tradition. If any of these are compromised, watch out. Today, new scholars, instead of using the word cult, they refer to them as new religious movements, NRM, new religious movements. And guess what? I was hurt. I was injured. In this documentary, I found something that shook me to my bones. New religious movements have arisen to help humans navigate turbulent times throughout history. In the Middle East, in Europe, in India, they said. And guess what is the last new religious movement or the new cult that was shown on this documentary? Guess. The Ramakrishna order. I was like, boom. So I was like, oh my God. No. So here I am. I have 20 more minutes. All right. Is the Ramakrishna Mission, order of monks, a new religious movement or a cult? Is it? You are free thinkers. We can think together. It is true that Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda's message was a huge source of inspiration against British colonialism. It is true. There was a social reform at that time. But wait a minute. We are not a new religious movement, but a spiritual movement which carries different connotations. Ramakrishna Mission is a spiritual and service-oriented organization, not a cult. Ramakrishna Mission is a spiritual and service-oriented organization, not a cult. This is a monastic order. Yes, a monastic order started by Swami Vivekananda, inspired by his teacher Sri Ramakrishna. This monastic and spiritual movement follows a very open, universal, inclusive, and rational approach to spirituality. This movement follows a very open, universal, inclusive, and rational approach to spirituality, focusing on the deep truth discovered, revealed to the ancient seers of the truth we call the rishis, that we find in the Upanishads, the end of the Vedas, what we also call Vedanta. We as a monastic community encourage people to lead a God-centered life, a life centered in God, the totality, what we call the universal self, a life centered in values. Why it is not, the Ramakrishna Mission is not a cult. There is no blind obedience or authoritarian control. Authoritarian control. I have issues pronouncing that word. Authority. The Ramakrishna Mission encourages national inquiry, rational, look at me, national, well, encourages rational inquiry and self-exploration. rational inquiry, and self-exploration rather than demanding blind obedience. Members and devotees are free to question, study various philosophies, and choose their own spiritual path. Freedom. Number 2, why we are not a cult. No exploitation of followers. There are no forced financial contributions, mandatory membership fees, or economic exploitation of devotees. We don't ask for money. The organization runs charitable hospitals in India, schools, universities, relief projects, without coercing donations. Number 3, no isolation from society. This movement encourages service to humanity as a form of a spiritual practice. Seeing God in others, we serve the society. Monastics and devotees engage in social welfare, mostly in India, education and interfaith dialogues. Staying integrated in society, engaged in society. Number 4, no charismatic leader with absolute authority. While we honor and respect our teachers as a source of inspiration, mainly Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, and Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi, you may even not know who they are. We don't talk much about them. They are our sources of inspiration, our teachers, our spiritual figures, but we don't project them. Yes, we honor them. We name this place after our teacher, Sri Ramakrishna Monastery. You go to the shrine, you see that picture, the old man sitting, meditating. That's all. It's for us. We lead our life centered in this person, this figure, our source of inspiration. We do worship every day to keep the atmosphere, the vibes, the good vibes that we can feel. The spiritual movement doesn't demand unquestioning loyalty to our sources of inspiration. The leadership structure is democratic and organized in India, also here, with decisions made through collective deliberation. Number 5, why Ramakrishna Mission is not a cult. There is emphasis on universal spirituality. The mission promotes the idea that all religions lead to the same truth based on Sri Ramakrishna's experience, and welcomes people from diverse backgrounds. It does not enforce a rigid dogma or claim exclusivity over spiritual wisdom. Now, let us talk about healthy charisma. Swami Vivekananda believed that charismatic spiritual leaders are essential for guiding humanity towards truth, self-realization, and social transformation. However, for him, charisma was not about personal magnetism alone. It was about spiritual realization, selflessness, and the ability to uplift others. For Thomas Merton, this Trappist monk, American by the way, charisma is an essential quality of true spiritual leaders. But we have to distinguish, he said, between superficial charisma based on personal charm or social influence and a deeper spiritual charisma that arose from genuine inner transformation. Was Sri Ramakrishna a charismatic spiritual leader? I don't know. Was he? Yes, we have to admit it. He was. He was undoubtedly a charismatic spiritual leader, but his charisma was not based on external magnetism or rhetorical skills. Instead, it stemmed from his deep spiritual realization, purity, childlike simplicity, and profound ability to transform the lives of those who came in contact with him. He was a mystic who directly experienced God in various forms. His intense spiritual practices from Advaita Vedanta through bhakti or devotion gave him a unique authority that inspired deep faith in others. He realized the truth of multiple religions, including Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity, proving that all paths lead to the same ultimate goal. This authenticity and sincerity made even skeptical intellectuals like Swami Vivekananda, his main disciple himself, to accept him as his spiritual master. Although Sri Ramakrishna was not an intellectual or a scholar, his words had a transformative impact. People from all walks of life, scholars, monks, householders, even skeptics, were drawn to him. His presence radiated divine love, making people feel deep spiritual connection. He inspired a new generation of spiritual seekers, including Swami Vivekananda, who carried his message all over the world. Now, 2025, he was the first Hindu monk who participated in the first Parliament of Religions in Chicago in 1893, here in the United States. And he delivered the message of Vedanta. He went a little bit beyond the tradition, you know. He spoke about the reality without any filters. I have to come back, and so otherwise I will just move. Unlike many religious figures who displayed authority and grandeur, Sri Ramakrishna remained humble and childlike. His pure heart and spontaneous joy were a source of attraction for many. He used simple parables or stories with profound spiritual truth, accessible to all. He lived a life of total renunciation, never seeking wealth, power, or recognition. He never wanted to be called teacher or guru. We talk about his disciples, but there is nowhere to be found that he indeed initiated people. Sri Ramakrishna's charisma came from his unconditional love for all. He saw the divine in every being, which made people feel deeply understood and accepted. He embraced people of all religions, castes, and social backgrounds. His compassionate and non-judgmental nature created a welcoming atmosphere for all seekers. Many who met Sri Ramakrishna experienced deep spiritual awakening simply by being in his presence. By the power of his own realization and experience, he could ignite a spiritual longing in others without elaborate teachings. Sri Ramakrishna's charisma was rooted in his divine realization, boundless love, and ability to transform lives. He did not seek to build an empire, establish doctrines, or gain followers. Yet, people naturally gravitated towards him because of his genuine spirituality and infectious joy. His greatest legacy is not just his teachings, but the way he empowered others, particularly his main disciple, Swami Dhyanayogananda, who carried his message worldwide and encouraged him to start a monastic organization that could give shelter to all sincere spiritual seekers who wanted to give their lives to God. Sri Ramakrishna, we can say, humbly speaking, I can say, why not? That is one of the most charismatic and influential spiritual figures in the history of the world. One of the most charismatic and influential spiritual figures. I'd like to share something with you. I joined this monastic organization in Buenos Aires. I was born and raised in South America, Argentina. And the first Swami from India came in 1933 and started the center. Here, I think it was 1926, Swami Prabhavananda. Swami Vijayananda, a direct disciple of Swami Brahmananda, Sri Ramakrishna's son, a spiritual son, Vijayananda started that center in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 1933. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna had been translated back then in the 1900s. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, what we call the true name, original name, is the Nectar of the Words of Sri Ramakrishna, was translated into Spanish. And back then, I don't know when, but a bunch of books were sent to a Mexican writer, a Mexican poet and writer, one of the most noble and famous writers of all time in the Spanish literature. His name was Amado Nervo. This man, this poet, writer, wrote a letter to the Vedanta Society of Buenos Aires after reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, originally called, as I said, the Nectar of the Words of Sri Ramakrishna. He said, "You have given me a very valuable gift by sending me 7 books. All of them are very good, but I might say that the admirable Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, a true revelation to me, exceeds them all. What a depth beneath its crystalline purity. What a depth beneath its crystalline purity. How beautiful are its parables, that of the wall behind which is the Absolute, for example. I had read some time ago with excited interest the Gospel of Buddha, coordinated and methodized by Paul Carus. It impressed me greatly, but less than this delightful Gospel of Ramakrishna, so deeply familiar, so familiarly profound." Beautiful words he used. So deeply familiar, so familiarly profound. It will be, from now on, one of my bedside books, one of those I carry with me everywhere. It is a sweet and mystical lamp. It is a sweet and mystical lamp that helps us to find God outside this spider web of philosophies. It is a sweet and mystical lamp that helps us to find God outside this spider web of philosophies, rituals, and metaphysical disputes. It's impregnated with the purest love, and no thread casts its shadow on these pages of mysterious whiteness, he wrote. Mahatma Gandhi, see, I'm taking advantage. I'm honoring him. Mahatma Gandhi said of Sri Ramakrishna, Ramakrishna's life enabled us to see God face to face. No one can read the story of his life without being convinced that God alone is real and all else an illusion. Sri Ramakrishna's charisma came from his unconditional love for all. Love is our true destiny, but we cannot love ourselves. We cannot love ourselves unless we love others. And we cannot love others unless we love ourselves. Our discovery of God is, in a way, God's discovery of us. Our praying to God is God's praying in us. Our lives and God's life are so intertwined that loving God is God loving God's own self in us. Thank you.